Okay, let's unpack this. You're in an audition room, heart pounding, right? And the role needs someone who can, I don't know, expertly ride a horse.
Right.
Now, maybe you've seen horses from a distance, but in that moment, a confident absolutely just kind of slips out.
Sounds familiar, maybe.
Totally. Or maybe the part needs a dazzling ice skater, and suddenly you're picturing yourself doing triple axels, even though your last time on ice involved mostly the wall.
Or maybe just a bruised ego.
Exactly. And who hasn't thought about maybe, slightly exaggerating their singing or dancing skills? Well, it turns out you're in pretty amazing company.
Yeah, some of Hollywood's most celebrated drama actresses have been right there. It's interesting, isn't it, how that relatable thing, that early career hustle, connects us to these incredibly successful women.
It really is. They're at the absolute peak, but they started with that same drive, that need to make an impression, sometimes with a little enhancement.
A bit of creative resume writing, perhaps.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the source for this deep dive is just fascinating. It's a full drama actress roundtable from The Hollywood Reporter.
And the lineup is incredible.
Seriously. Jennifer Aniston, Jodie Foster, Nicole Kidman, Brie Larson, Sawai, Sofia Vergara, and Naomi Watts. Just wow.
Think about that collective experience. We're talking Oscars, Emmys, decades navigating, well, the craziness of Hollywood.
It's not just a collection of funny audition stories, though. It's way more than that.
Absolutely. It's this really remarkable window into the journeys of women in a seriously demanding industry. We get to hear firsthand about, the hurdles, the wisdom they've picked up.
How they managed to not just survive, but really thrive.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to really dig into this conversation, pull out those key insights, those unforgettable moments, and basically give you the essential takeaways from their collective.
Like your backstage pass to a really honest, revealing chat.
Yeah, with some of the most talented women working in drama today.
And what makes this relevant for you, the listener, is that even though it's set in Hollywood, the themes are pretty universal, right?
Totally. We're talking about figuring out the start of your career, learning how to stand up for yourself.
Building support systems, dealing with the emotional weight of tough jobs.
Yeah.
These are things that resonate far beyond just acting.
So what are we going to cover in this deep dive? First up, those early career fibs, the little white lies, the big ambitions.
The horseback riding.
Then we'll get into the crucial skill of setting boundaries, the power of saying no.
Which is huge. Then mentorship, support systems.
How they handle really demanding, emotionally draining roles, some memorable on-set stuff.
Oh yeah, there were some stories there.
And finally, how they see their own careers evolving, their personal growth. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. That first question about, stretching the truth early on, it really sets the scene.
It really does. And the shared laughter about lying about horseback riding, it felt like this universal Hollywood inside joke, almost a cliche.
It seems like everyone's done it, or knows someone who has.
But then Sofia Vergara's story saying she could sing and dance, which somehow lands her an audition for Chicago on Broadway.
And she got the part. Mama Morton.
I mean, that's a bold move. It actually paid off. What do you think makes those kinds of leaps, even if you're maybe not fully prepared, so important sometimes?
Well, I think it speaks to that idea that sometimes you just have to go for it, right? Opportunity favors the bold, or whatever the saying is.
Right.
There's a willingness to put yourself out there, to believe in your potential, even if the resume isn't quite perfect yet. And clearly, with Sofia, she had the confidence, the charisma they wanted for the part, regardless of her formal training at that point.
And it wasn't just performance skills either. They mentioned fibbing about knowing multiple languages or weird sports.
Yeah, resume padding.
Naomi Watts even admitted her agent told people she could sing and dance. It just highlights that pressure, doesn't it? To present the absolute best version of yourself, especially when you're trying to break in.
I think it often comes from feeling like you have to meet certain criteria, or perceived criteria anyway. You worry you'll be overlooked if you don't tick every single box.
You kind of round up your skills a bit.
Yeah, highlight the potential, maybe more than the current reality.
Okay, now this is where it gets really, really interesting. Let's talk about the power of no. Jodie Foster mentioned reaching out to younger actors.
Yeah, specifically about social media pressure. She talked about being like a mother figure.
What does that tell you about the environment younger actors are dealing with now? It sounds intense.
Oh, it suggests a whole different level of scrutiny, doesn't it? It's not just the usual industry challenges, but this constant demand to curate a public persona online.
24/7.
Exactly. It sounds exhausting and potentially pretty damaging. Foster's concern really points to a need for guidance in navigating all that.
And the advice she wished she'd gotten. Just allow yourself to be you and not compare yourself to other people. That's huge.
So simple, but so hard to do.
She talked about that pressure in auditions, feeling like you had to create this whole persona based on what others looked like or did. How do you even start to untangle that, to find your own voice in a field that's so subjective?
Well, it's going to be a constant process, right? Self-reflection, trying to accept yourself, tuning out the noise, the comparisons, what you think people expect, and focusing on your own unique thing.
Your own art.
Yeah. And knowing yourself well enough to know what actually feels right for you.
Nicole Kidman brought this up too. She talked about learning to say no really early on, like as a young teenager.
And how it wasn't always taken well back then.
Right. But her reason was so clear, needing to go home and live with myself. What's the significance of that being the driving force?
So it really frames saying no as an act of like self-respect, self-preservation even.
Protecting your integrity.
Exactly. Prioritizing your own well-being and values, even if it might have professional consequences. It shows she had a really strong sense of her own boundaries, even young.
And Anna Sawai added this fascinating cultural layer. She talked about growing up in Japan, where saying yes is really encouraged. So her journey to get comfortable asking for what she wants, that probably resonates with a lot of people, regardless of background. Why is saying no just so hard for so many of us?
Oh, there's so many reasons. Fear of disappointing people, fear of missing out, fear of backlash.
FOMO, yeah.
Plus, societal pressure to be polite, agreeable. It takes real courage sometimes to put your own needs first.
And they got into the nuance of it too, like distinguishing between a no that's coming from fear versus one that's about genuinely protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Especially with difficult roles.
Right, because sometimes fear is the obstacle, and you might actually need support to say yes. How do you tell the difference?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I think it takes some real self-honesty. A no for self-protection usually feels pretty clear, like something violates your values or just feels wrong.
Like a gut feeling.
Yeah, whereas a fear-based no might feel more like anxiety about the unknown or doubting if you can handle it. You got to really dig into where that hesitation is coming from.
Ultimately, it sounded like the consensus was that your yes or no should allow you to do your best work responsibly and safely.
Creating an environment where you can actually thrive creatively without burning out or compromising yourself.
Which leads perfectly into mentorship and support systems. Brie Larson talked about reaching out to other superhero actors.
Yeah, that was great. What makes that kind of peer support so key in that specific kind of weird genre?
Well, the superhero tips were amazing. Some practical stuff, like being physically ready, obviously.
Sure.
But also, like, super specific advice about bathroom logistics in costume.
Oh.
The story about the first Captain Marvel suit needing 45 minutes for a bathroom break.
45 minutes. It's unbelievable.
It just highlights these unique, totally unspoken challenges you'd never think about.
It's a perfect example of how valuable that firsthand experience is. You're not going to find that advice in an acting textbook.
No way.
And having someone who's literally been there, who gets it, offering practical tips and just camaraderie, that must be incredibly reassuring.
Larson also mentioned the anxiety newcomers feel even when playing these super powerful characters, and how important that network was, like the Avengers cast, giving her real, tangible advice.
Yeah, think about that psychological dynamic. You're projecting immense power outwardly.
Saving the universe.
Right. But inside, you might be feeling totally insecure, especially starting out in that high-stakes world. That support system becomes crucial for bridging that gap, giving you a safe space.
Nicole Kidman mentioned Toni Collette as an early hero and mentor, and just the general idea of women in the industry connecting, becoming friends.
That was called a game changer.
Yeah, for swapping stories, finding solidarity. Plus, Jodie Foster's performance in The Accused was a huge inspiration for Kidman early on. So mentorship isn't always like a formal thing.
Not at all. It can be finding inspiration in someone's work, getting advice from a peer who's a bit further along, or just building that network of colleagues who understand the specific challenges you face.
So putting it all together, these connections, formal or informal, seem absolutely vital for navigating the ups and downs.
Definitely. Which brings us to the tough stuff, navigating challenging roles and the emotional toll. Jennifer Aniston talked about needing comedy to balance out darker material.
And her method of consciously not staying in character after they yell cut.
What's the value in that separation, especially with really heavy roles?
It seems like vital self-preservation, doesn't it? Being able to step away, protect your own mental health, keep those lines between fiction and reality from getting too blurry.
Sofia Vergara had such an interesting take, coming to acting later and seeing it as this lucky thing.
Yeah, her attitude, not brain surgery, towards the ups and downs, the yes and no, it felt incredibly grounded.
How does that kind of perspective help buffer the emotional roller coaster?
Well, it probably creates a bit of healthy distance, right? Less susceptibility to the intense highs and lows if you keep that bigger picture in mind. Not getting totally swept away by every bit of feedback or casting.
But even with that attitude, she hit real challenges moving from comedy to drama in Griselda. Worries about her accent, typecasting.
She even worked with Jennifer Aniston's acting coach.
Right. And the fact that acting in Spanish, her native language, was surprisingly difficult for that role. That says a lot about performance new.
It really underscores that acting is more than just language. It's culture, emotion, the specific demands of that character. Drama requires a different muscle than comedy, even in your first language.
Nicole Kidman also mentioned constantly shifting accents and sometimes feeling like she loses her own voice. That sounds incredibly disorienting.
It really does. It speaks to how deep the immersion goes and the potential identity drift when you're constantly living in different vocal and emotional.
Sawai brought up a really critical point about her initial fears with Shogun, worrying it might perpetuate stereotypes about the sexualization of Japanese.
And the conscious effort to ensure the female characters were complex, independent. That evolution of the bath scene, focusing on emotional connection, not just physicality.
It shows a real shift, right? A growing awareness and influence actors have in shaping how stories are told.
Absolutely. It highlights actors, especially from underrepresented groups, wanting and advocating for our authentic, respectful portrayals, challenging those old, harmful stereotypes.
And her visceral reaction to character descriptions like broken but beautiful.
Or beautiful, but she doesn't know it. She literally crossed them out.
So powerful. And Nicole Kidman pointing out how often rape is used as lazy shorthand for female character motivation. Sadly, that's spot on.
Her proactively suggesting alternatives and mentioning the importance of women like Lulu Wang directing expats to shift that narrative that feel, what damage do those old tropes actually?
Oh, they just perpetuate harmful stereotypes, flatten female characters. It reinforces this idea that women's stories are mainly about trauma and victimhood, not their own agency, their inner lives.
Then there was that shocking anecdote from Anne Hathaway, being asked to make out with multiple actors for chemistry tests back in the 2000s.
The surprise from the others on the panel was telling.
Yeah, and the whole discussion about how uncomfortable and, frankly, unrealistic those kinds of tests are. The idea that chemistry should come from writing, interaction, direction.
Not forced makeout sessions. It makes so much more sense.
That story is just a stark reminder of past power imbalances and, well, objectification.
The fact that the others seem surprised hopefully signals a real positive change in industry standards, prioritizing respect and boundaries.
Sofia Vergara's journey with Griselda sounded incredibly intense. The difficulty, Spanish, prosthetics, drama, learning to smoke at 50.
And needing sleep aids. It paints such a vivid picture of the commitment, but also the cost of these roles.
The process she described with her coach, unlocking those, wow. What kind of support is essential for actors taking on that level?
It really highlights the need for comprehensive prep, doesn't it? Technical, emotional, research, coaching to access and manage those tough feelings safely, and having a strong support system outside of work.
It was also fascinating hearing the different takes on comedy versus drama. Kidman finding drama easier.
While Aniston finds comedy exhausting after a few weeks. As an introvert, she said.
It really shows how personal it is. What energizes one person might drain another. Finding the work that fits you.
Exactly. It's subjective.
And Jodie Foster's perspective at 60, that was just gold. None of us know what we're doing.
Embracing the freshness, the doubt.
That meditative quality of accepting what happens.
And the joy she finds now in stepping back from leads sometimes, supporting new voices. What does that long-term view bring?
It feels like wisdom gained through sheer experience, doesn't it? More humility, maybe? A shift from just individual achievement to contributing to the whole creative ecosystem. Valuing new perspectives, wanting to lift others up.
Exactly.
And the recurring theme of protecting your psyche, Kidman talking about feeling like she was going crazy sometimes.
The physical toll of sustained stress.
The absolute need for self-care support networks. Brie Larson talking about the aftermath of Room.
And developing techniques like her pop-up tent on set to just decompress and offload those emotions.
It all just hammers home the need for sustainable practices in this business. You have to protect yourself.
These examples really underscore needing self-awareness and healthy coping strategy, recognizing the potential impact, and proactively building in ways to care for yourself and recover.
Okay, let's shift slightly to personal experiences, career evolution. Naomi Watts was incredibly candid.
Yeah, about starting late by Hollywood standards, being told her career would be over by 40.
And then being told she was nearing menopause in her 30s, the shame and fear she felt.
And her decision to speak out, to normalize that conversation, challenge ageism, that was powerful.
And her point about how that openness could actually elongate careers by opening up different kinds of roles, so important. What's the real power in breaking
Watts' vulnerabilities? By talking about these stigmatized topics, she's not just empowering herself, she's creating space for more honest, inclusive conversations in the industry and beyond.
Challenging outdated ideas, allowing for more authentic stories.
Yeah, exactly.
And that idea of a certain fuck it attitude can come with age and experience.
I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling of liberation.
Definitely. And the constant drumbeat about boundaries being crucial for younger actors' well-being, really key.
That fuck it attitude probably comes from more self-acceptance, less need for external validation, which sounds pretty freeing, and emphasizing boundaries early on. That's about fostering healthier, more sustainable careers right from the start.
Sofia Vergara's perspective on her accent was just wonderful, too. Not being terrorized by the English language, but seeing it as a strength.
Embracing it as a superpower to tell unique stories.
It's such a great example of turning a perceived difference into a real asset.
It's a powerful reminder that diversity enriches storytelling, brings unique perspectives.
And we have to mention the fun ending, the emoji question.
Oh, yeah. That was hilarious. Eye roll heart, red heart, kissy heart.
Oh. Sideways, what the F? Eek. A great little snapshot of their personalities.
Totally. And Jennifer Aniston's closing thought about women giving each other their flowers, celebrating each other. It's a lovely sentiment to end on.
A perfect note highlighting that camaraderie.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the core insights that really stick out for you? For me, it's that constant thread of self-awareness, needing those firm boundaries, the incredible resilience it takes to navigate this industry, and just the evolving conversations about women's experiences and representation.
I'd add the remarkable vulnerability they shared. I mean, these are women at the absolute top of their game. Hearing them talk about early insecurities, ongoing struggles, how they cope, it's incredibly humanizing, and it offers real lessons for anyone in any demanding field.
And a specific memorable nugget. I gotta go with the 45-minute Captain Rake.
It's so specific and unexpected. That, or maybe the Anne Hathaway chemistry test story, a real indicator of how things have hopefully shifted.
Definitely. Connecting this back to you, the listener, obviously, the details are about acting. But those themes, career navigation, self-advocacy, personal growth,
they're universal. It's about finding your voice, setting your boundaries, building your support network, wherever you are, whatever you do.
So here's a final thought to maybe chew on. After hearing these incredibly accomplished women talk about their journeys, what do you think is the most significant shift still needed in how creative industries handle talent well-being and development?
Or maybe consider this. They talk so much about the importance of knowing your yes and your no. Where in your own life could you benefit from taking a closer look at where you draw those lines?
Thank you for deep dive with. Until next time.